All right, you're back with us off the edge, episode 18. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Cameron Lynch. And today we're starting a new series. We're just going to be the Off the Edge series podcast because we constantly are throwing series your way. We did the whole draft class. You know, we've done other series. We did our top 10 teams last week. So now we're starting a new series that's going to go for a couple weeks. Really excited about it. We're going to go through each position in the NFL and we're going to rank them from 10 to 1. And, you know, I'm really excited about it because we're starting with quarterbacks and, man, quarterback controversy, man. It's like you put a guy at 8 and, you know, not 9, or you put a guy at 10 and he doesn't belong in the top. It's like all hell breaks loose. Yeah,
it's gonna get spicy, Jake. You know, we covered the Bleav and Rams show, but we're not holding back here. There's some guys on this list that are some rivals, and able to jump up on this list. So I'm excited to jump through it, Jake, to see kind of where these guys can emerge, and not only these guys, but the guys that got drafted. I do think some guys that got drafted this year are going to jump up into this top 10 list next year. But I'm excited to hear who you got, Jake.
Yeah, this will be something to look forward to, you know, as the season progresses and like going into next year, like how different we could actually make a comparison series where we compare the two of like what we like now versus that. But yeah, before we get into that, just letting you know that betonline.ag is your #1 source for all your basketball info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and lines and the latest matchup reports this year for this year's NBA playoffs. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from basketball, MLB, NHL, golf to UFC and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games, available to play right from your home. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Be sure to use our promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. So Cam, we're going to start a little differently. So we did the top 10. We kind of ran out of a little time. We didn't really get to, you know, talk too much about the Chiefs last week. So no, we don't have anything against the Chiefs. Just putting it out there.
They just win everything.
Yeah, they just win it. But you know, this time we're going to do something different. We're going to give our top 10s early on the show, and we're going to break it down. We're going to talk about, you know, different players that really stand out. You know, I'll start, Cam. I'll just drop my top 10. You drop yours. I'm going to go number 10, Trevor Lawrence. Number 9, Tua Tagovailoa. Number 8, Matthew Stafford. Number 7, Aaron Rodgers. Number 6, Lamar Jackson. Number 5, Justin Herbert. Number 4, Josh Allen. Number 3, Jalen Hurts. Number 2, Joe Burrow. And number 1 is Patrick Mahomes.
Okay. Your list got a little spicy towards the top there, Jake. So I'm going to read off my list and see what you think. I got honorable mention. I got Geno Smith, Jake. I'm just going to mention that at first.
I forgot the honorable mentions.
It's all good, but I do think Geno Smith is going to be that emerging quarterback. We talked about some of these guys that just got drafted to emerge, but I do think this year Geno will be in that selection. So, Jake, I don't know if you want to drop in your honorable mentions as well before I jump into my list.
Appreciate you, my guy. Always looking out. Yes, so I don't get the angry mob after me. Coming in, honorable mentions, Jared Goff. You know, I think he deserves to be mentioned. I honestly was wrestling between him and Trevor Lawrence at number 10. I think you can make an argument that Jared Goff, who hasn't thrown an interception once since like week 8 or whatever, it was some crazy stat I saw. Jared Goff makes more sense at 10 because the Trevor Lawrence 4 interceptions in a playoff game, still not over that. But Trevor Lawrence made significant strides. I mean, it helps when you have, you know, a coach that's not the worst in the league or of all time in Urban Meyer. But Jared Goff, Dak Prescott.
Okay.
I eased on Dak a little bit after the playoffs. I kind of post ankle break, he scares me, man. I'm just being honest.
They score a lot of points, though. They score a lot of points. So it's all good.
Do. They definitely do. So he's an honorable mention. Kirk Cousins, the guy's been a model of consistency, except for in the playoffs. And Geno Smith, your guy, had him as an honorable mention. I think right now it's a matter of, you know, is he a one-year wonder? Where is he? I think he has a huge opportunity this year to you know, what was it? You know, they wrote me off and I didn't write back. So, you know, he has a huge opportunity to continue this story that's been pretty amazing. And it kind of breaks the mold of, you know, the stereotypical NFL bust quarterback.
Yeah, no, you love to see it. Geno Smith, he's been riding Russell Wilson's coattails for a while, Jake. And so now it's his time to shine. We talked about this before. He's the quarterback that replaced the Hall of Famer. At the end of the day, that's a great compliment. So I can see him being the best honorable mention on the list there. But my number 10, Jake, I got Matthew Stafford. Last year didn't go how he wanted to. He got hurt, but my man is coming off of a Super Bowl win. So tip your cap off to Stafford, right? So to see what he's been through. Big cap tip there. And then number 9, Trevor Lawrence, Jake. We talk about the hair, right? Head and shoulders. My man, he does have Doug Peterson. I do think having a different coach is a game changer, right? We talk about Sean Payton going to the Broncos. What is that going to look like for Russell Wilson? Next year, will he be on this list? I don't know. I'm not going to talk about it right now, Jake, right? But I know we talked about, having a head coach come in and change the game. Doug Peterson's done that for Trevor Lawrence. So really cool to see. I'm curious about Derek Carr. We talked about this off air, Jake, right? How does Derek Carr do? What does that look like? Is there going to be a resurgence of his career there? Next, Jets, Jets. Come on, man. Aaron Rodgers. To be honest, Jake, he is the most goated person here on this list, right? You got to pay respects. I mean, I know Patrick Mahomes has a few more championships than he does, but you got to show love to the OG, to the old head. So I'm gonna go Aaron Rodgers, number 8 there, and then before that, Tua. He has to stay healthy. I mean, he has to stay healthy, Jake. I'm seeing just the quarterback position. And at first we talk about undersized, not being undersized, and seeing Tua, it kind of scares me a little bit, man, just to see how he got slung around a little bit. Bryce Young, I'm hoping he won't have that same type of injury-prone career, because he looked like a little boy amongst those deep offensive linemen at the
Panthers. I knew you were going to bring up that picture. Yeah, that picture didn't do him any justice. It reminded me when they first came out, there was a training camp picture of Tutu Atwell with the Rams. It was showed like Cooper Kupp, and he's like thick and like filled out. And then you saw Tutu Atwell, and it looked like he was like Pee Wee football, I mean, at quarterback tough. Though, that's rough. I think he's going to be fine, but it's also one of those, the camera adds 10 pounds. But if you're really small with those other guys that are over 300 pounds, it adds 10 pounds to the 300 guys and doesn't add anything to you.
Yeah, he might have to grow his hair out a little bit, Jake. That's what I did when I played football, right? I'm a 6 feet tall linebacker, so I had to grow my hair out to appear, a little bit bigger.
Like Dorian Williams.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go. Are you going to be rocking dreads anytime soon?
Hey, man. Hey, you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to do what you got to do. But Bryce Young, I'm curious how he's going to navigate. Going back to Tua, your Drew Brees is, right? Like Drew Brees had to face this his whole career. So hopefully he can just send those guys some notes. Hey, stick in there, young fellas, short fellas. But no, I got Tua there, Jake. Hopefully he stays healthy this year. Because, yeah, man, he's a special cat, right? With Jalen Hurts, who I'm going to talk about, who was a little bit higher on the list. Both those guys being at Alabama and seeing their success, that was really cool. Next, I got Justin Herbert, Jake. I know he got those ribs cracked, last season. Those guys were attacking him. It's something about these quarterbacks and these ribs, man. Like Mike White, ribs got him. But Herbert, he has some weapons now, Jake. We talk about some of the receivers that the Chargers now have. They have some true weapons. So Justin Herbert, he's gonna be able to make every throw. Hopefully, he doesn't have to run for his life all the time, Jake. So his ribs can stay intact. And then hopefully he gets a running back. I know Austin Eckler is going to be there, but we need somebody in the backfield that can protect him. So I got Justin Herbert there. Next, I got Lamar Jackson. Come on. Jake, they ain't paying him all that money for no reason, my guy. They paid him the big bag. So I got Lamar next. Josh Allen, I hope he wins a chip soon, Jake, because I don't know, man. Those Bills fans, his birthday was the other day, though. So happy birthday to, good old Josh. Then next, I got Joe Burrow, so number 3. So I know you had Joe Burrow, I think, is number 2. So I'm going to go Joe Burrow as my number 3. Jalen Hurts, my number 2, since he had the best Super Bowl performance, I think, since Aaron Rodgers back in 2012. And then Patrick Mahomes, numero uno. We don't talk about the Chiefs a lot because they win so much, and I feel like they get a lot of pub. So we kind of leave those guys, for the end a little bit. But that's my list, Jake.
Yeah. Well, hey, I think what the viewers might notice, and what I noticed immediately, is we have the same 10 guys, and we did not we didn't work on this together. So
right.
we're thinking kind of the same thing. The guys that just missed, the Goffs, the Genos, the Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr. I mean, if maybe this Saints move is going to be the biggest thing ever for his career. Who knows? It wouldn't be the first time we've seen something like that, as you brought up. But with this list, it's the 10 guys. It's just different order. Like I have, Trevor Lawrence at 10. You have Stafford at 10. I have Stafford at 8. You have Trevor Lawrence at 9.
Why put Stafford at 8 and Trevor? Why switch them that way, Jake?
So I was wrestling with Trevor Lawrence and Jared Goff being at 10. I couldn't even decide. I mean, I ended up going with Trevor Lawrence, but I'm sure if you asked me tomorrow, I'd probably go with Goff. Like, it's going to be one of those. But I feel like Stafford and Rodgers deserve like some, veteran credit, I guess. Yeah. And I guess to an extent, people would ask me then, why is Russell Wilson not in the top 10? Why is he not even honorable mention? I don't know if Russell Wilson can continue playing. Like, I don't know. Like, he's no doubt about it, Hall of Fame quarterback. He is unbelievable. And at one point, I thought he might have been the best quarterback in the league as far as the most accurate, the most pinpoint accurate. Talk about generally accurate, pinpoint accurate. The problem is, though, the Russell Wilson I saw last year wasn't just a bad season. Like, say what you will about Matthew Stafford, but there were moments he looked really good. He just dealt with a really bad, like, offensive line. He couldn't get on the same page with his receivers. Van Jefferson was out, like, the entire time, basically, that he was playing. And then when he was out, Van Jefferson basically came back. But, it's one of those things where he didn't get on the same page with some of the guys. And I understand the stats don't look great, and people say, he's no different than Russell Wilson. Not true, because I wasn't really a huge fan of Russell Wilson before he went to the Broncos. That last year before, I think there's a reason Seattle moved on, and they're like, they saw more out of Geno. And let's be honest here, like, when you get ragdolled and thrown around like that as much as you did, and I've brought up how many times Russell Wilson's been sacked, it makes sense. So I look at Stafford and Rodgers as these are the veterans that get a little bit of a pass here. Rodgers had back-to-back MVPs and maybe had a little bit of a down year, but he's going to be playing with the Jets this year. He's going to have a lot of, stuff around him. And then Matthew Stafford, when he was healthy and when he had the off chance he had any protection, he didn't look horrible. He was pretty good last year, like when he had a chance to throw. And so I think when you look at this year, potentially having a run game, finally being, all right, we know Cam Akers is the starting running back. Like, that is a given. There's no up in the air between him and Henderson and insert Sony Michel or whoever there. Then you have your wide receivers. They all complement each other well. Kupp complements Atwell well. Atwell complements Van Jefferson and so forth. Higbee, right? So
Hunter Long.
Yeah, well, I mean, the offensive line's better. So I think with Matthew Stafford, I've seen a lot of the rankings where he's in the 20s, and I'm sorry, I can't subscribe to that. I think that's way overreacting to what I thought was really an anomaly season with all the injuries. But with Tua, this is the one that interests me the most, because Tua in advanced metrics before he got hurt was like the best quarterback in the NFL. Yeah. I mean, by all accounts, all of the advanced metrics had Tua among the best in the league. And so he, at one point, I was sitting down to do my like way too early quarterback rankings or MVP rankings in the middle of the season. And I'm like, is it weird that I think Tua Tagovailoa right now is a top 3 quarterback? It feels weird. But if you think about it,
he's a great coach.
I mean, if he plays at that level, he's got the coach, now the defense to back him up this year. And, I mean, he's throwing to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So the guy has talent. He's throwing 2 talented receivers. Now you go out and you get I almost said A-Train, but might as well. Devon A-Chain in the backfield. I think Tua is, if he stays healthy, that Dolphins team's going to be lethal, and I think he's going to be lethal, and that's why I had him in the top 10. You and I had the same thought process, clearly.
Yeah, no, I agree. And Jake, I'll say this. Like you said, if Tua stays healthy, he will be in that top 3, 4, right? Depending on how things go. If Josh Allen, gets it together, he has a nice tight end to throw to. But Jake, I'll say this about Russell Wilson, the Broncos. I'm just looking at his ranking, Jake, right? His NFL ranking over time. In 2013, he was number 6, 2014, number 8. And then he's always been, Jake, in the top 10. 2021, he was in the top 11. This past year, 30. So what I'll say is this is probably the lowest point of his career, right? We talk about Sean McVay and him having a low point in his career. I think Russell Wilson's going to look at this. I think he's going to have a conversation with Sean Payton and say, hey, get me in that top 10, right? Get me back to where I know I can be. So what I'll say is Russell Wilson, I won't say he will be the comeback player of the year, right? Because, there's other players who might get that trophy or that award. But I think Russell Wilson is going to have the biggest resurgence of his career this year. He was the laughingstock of the NFL, Jake, and I do think he's going to flip that around. I think he's too good. I think he's too good to sit back. I know Sierra's like, hey, I'm tired of people talking about you on Twitter. Go get him. So we'll see. Russell, I got him having a turnaround career, Jake. And then going back to, I think the biggest piece that I want to see here, I think the most important person on this list is Josh Allen. I want to see how he takes the coaching from the executive, the meetings, right? The owners' meetings. They said, hey, don't run as much. I'm curious to see how he's going to adapt his game. And are they going to win a little bit more, right? Are they going to take that next step? I think he's the quarterback to key here. When it comes to the Bills winning football game, it's going to be very tough to do with that division. But I think Josh Allen has to have, I think, one of his better careers this year, or Diggs is out, Jake. I'm not going to lie. If Diggs does not, if he doesn't get what he needs to get this year, I think he's out. I think you'll probably see him in a Cowboys uniform with his brother, right? Like Diggs has been on a couple teams at this point, and I'm sure he wants to probably play with his brother. These guys train together. They do everything together. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, who knows what the Cowboys, what they're working with. But if my brother was the best cornerback in the league and I'm one of the better receivers in the league, I'm going to go play with him, put that Cowboys uniform on, the number one sports market, sports team in the world, and I'm gonna go ball out. So the team to watch is the Bills for me, Jake.
Yeah, so I mean with Josh Allen, I think he's just got to cut down the turnovers. I thought he did a really nice job in 2021, and I thought Mahomes took a step back, whereas Mahomes is doing stupid stuff, and I think that's why the Chiefs didn't play the Rams in the Super Bowl. Instead, it was the Bengals. I mean, Mahomes threw it up there in a double coverage to Tyreek Hill. Interception, and that was all she wrote. And so, I feel like Mahomes got a little casual, got really laid back and almost too comfortable. And then this year, I feel like losing that was almost like a blessing in a way, because they watched the Bengals. They had to go up and watch the Bengals, who went from worst to first, essentially, representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. And I think, at that point, it was like you saw a different Mahomes last year. Obviously, he's capable, but, 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 5,200 yards. I mean, he was insane last year. And I think the thing with Josh Allen is the 14 interceptions, obviously fumbles from, running the ball. He's got to take better care of it, but he's also got to take better care of himself, because he's gotten out of seasons where you're like, all right, anybody else would have gotten hurt. He's a tight end playing quarterback, right? He's got that big body tight end, look, but it just takes one hit. We saw RG3. We saw with Andrew Luck. I mean, it literally takes Carson Wentz. I mean, you literally saw that one hit against it was Mark Barron who hit him, and he was never the same. And I still say, to this day, Sam Bradford went through the same thing, where
Teddy Bridgewater as well. Yeah.
It's hard to come back from that. And so, it's like Josh Allen needs to protect himself better. The offensive line can do what they can, but once he runs out of the pocket, that's now up to him to protect himself. It's you can't have the offensive line hover over you, like, surround you or anything like that. Yeah. But no, I agree with you. I think Allen is incredibly interesting. Now, let me address the elephant in the room here. Why is Joe Burrow number 2? I get asked a lot, like, why do you love Joe Burrow so much? Because Joe Burrow is universally liked, but I think he's elite. And people are like, well, he's not elite. He's really good. He's got great supporting cast, but he's not elite. And I would say to them this, 41. That's the number of sacks he had last year, okay? Last year, Mahomes had 26, okay? Justin Herbert had 38. Rashawn Slater missed what? Half the season last year. He got hurt. So, look, okay, the only one who got sacked more than Joe Burrow, I think it was Geno Smith and Kirk Cousins. Joe Burrow has dealt with poor offensive lines. And the fact of the matter is that he took, and yes, I'm going to say he took for a reason, he took an offensive line to the Super Bowl in 2021 to 2022 that didn't belong in the Super Bowl. They were bad. I mean, let's call it like it is. They gave up 8 sacks against the Rams. Now, you could say the Rams defense was great, and I'm not going to push back on that. But what I will say is that this guy just continues to stay alive and thrive. He tore his ACL his rookie year. What did he do? He came back. People were doubting him. I actually remember this in training camp. There was something where people were like critiquing the way he was like standing in the pocket, and they're like, oh, he's starting to see ghosts out there. Oh, his mentality hasn't come back. And I remember thinking, you know, I'm not buying any of this hogwash. I think he's going to go out there and he's going to prove people wrong. And sure enough, he did. And now I think Burrow's number 2, because at the end of the day, I could have Josh Allen who runs like a madman, and, you know, that's great and all. But I don't need Josh Allen. I need Joe Burrow. And the reason I say that is because Burrow wins. Do you know why Burrow wins? Do you know why Burrow's already been to a Super Bowl in his first 2 seasons, despite playing on a team that had a coach that was going to get fired and a team that was picking number 1 overall a year prior? The reason is because Joe Burrow takes care of the football. Joe Burrow, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, okay? This guy throws, completion percentage is always high. 68.3 this past year. I mean, that's one of the best in the NFL. You know, the 68.3, Patrick Mahomes had a 67 completion percentage. His 68.3 is only rivaled by Geno Smith, who had a 69.8.
There you go. Geno, there he goes.
so that's my thing, is that like all this Joe Burrow stuff, it's like, look, he's legit. He has an over 100 quarterback or passer rating, rather. You know, this guy, he plays his best when his best is required. Now, people will bring up last year losing in the AFC title game to the Chiefs again, right? Or again, for the first time. Yeah. They had, you know, that was the first time he ever lost to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. There were some calls late in that game. That game came down to the wire, okay? Burrow could have played better down the stretch, but I've gotten to the point where I'm like, I've seen Joe Burrow play without an offensive line. So what happens when he gets one?
Yeah, no, Jake, it's tough, right? Guys like talents like Joe Burrow, if people have watched football, watched sports, he's been winning since he was in high school, right? He's been winning since he was in high school. He played basketball, he played football, he's won championships in college, national championships, and it has carried that winning pedigree over. Trevor Lawrence, similar, right? Where these guys are just winners. And Jake, I know you mentioned Joe Burrow being number 2, Jake, but I'm gonna have to push back, my guy. I'm gonna have to push back a little bit. Reason why I say that.
Well, you have him at 3, so I mean, you know, we both have him ahead of Josh Allen, which is gonna gain some attention.
Yeah, no, but I mean, he's been to the chip. You just mentioned it. He's been to the chip in the first 2 years of his playing career. Josh Allen, we haven't seen it. We'll wait. We'll wait, Jake. But
we'll wait.
I think that's what we talk about: upper echelon players, generational players. I think Josh Allen is, but I think Joe Burrow is just that next level. And it's just unfortunate, Jake, he has to play against your Patrick Mahomes, right? It's kind of like when like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, you know, your Steph Curry's, like when they're playing in the league, it just sucks for everyone else because they're not going to get championships because you got players that are generational players. So it's just unfortunate that Joe Burrow and Josh Allen have to go against a generational player. So what I will say, Jalen Hurts, Jake. Jalen Hurts, I think we talk about adversity. You talk about Joe Burrow, how he got hurt, he bounced back. Jalen Hurts, we talk about just someone that's humble, someone that's meek, and that's able to be dominant. We speak about his whole journey in college with Tua. Tua took over the starting position, won a national championship. He went to Oklahoma, competed in the playoffs, and then finally makes his way to the Super Bowl, outplays everybody on the football field, and just doesn't get the dub because he's playing against a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James. It's just unfortunate. But I'm going to go Jalen Hurts after this last year, Jake. After that Super Bowl performance, I'm going to go Jalen Hurts as my number 2 guy just because he made it to the show when he balled out. We'll see. We'll see what happens this year. But Joe Burrow is ice cold. I'm not going to disagree with that. I do believe he is above Josh Allen when it comes to talent. And yeah, his championship presence speaks enough for himself there.
I think raw talent, Josh Allen is number 2, right? Just raw talent. because he brings that mobility factor to the table. But I think going into 2023, which is what we're doing right now, I'm going to put him at F4. With Jalen Hurts, he does not get enough credit, and maybe he's starting to, because you had him at 2. I have him at 3. So we have the same top 3. Yeah. And I feel like when I look at Jalen Hurts last year, 8 yards per pass, over 3,700 yards, which is crazy because he ran for like 700 yards, right? So you talk about that, 22-6. So he's not turning the ball over, he's not throwing interceptions. He was outstanding. He should have won the Super Bowl MVP regardless of the outcome. He was the best player on the field.
Yeah,
I'm gonna say it. I know it's sacrilege. I don't know. I wouldn't say disrespectful, but I think that you should be allowed to win a Super Bowl MVP even if you lose the Super Bowl. Why should it matter? I mean, there have been players in the past that have just absolutely, like, you want to tell me the way Brady played, like he broke every Kurt Warner record, because Kurt Warner had all 3 passing records in the Super Bowl, the 3 highest passing totals. Brady beats that. And they lose to the Eagles, and I'm not a Brady fan. Like, I'm not over here with my Patriots flag or Buccaneers flag. Yeah. No offense. But like, just letting everyone know, like, I'm not biased towards Brady, but let's call it like it is. He was the best player, and Nick Foles played very well. And I'm not really a huge Nick Foles fan. He played very, very well, right? But Brady broke records, and they lost. So he's not going to get it. But like, you could argue he was keeping them in the crazy Super Bowl against the Eagles. I mean, that's the only reason that Super Bowl was so close, was because of him.
Yeah.
That's the definition of an MVP.
Yeah, no, I feel it, Jake. I mean, there's no trophies for the second place. Either your first or your last, right? Like Talladega Nights is either your first or your last, brother. So I feel you on that, though. I feel you on that. Jalen Hurts definitely did ball out, but I think that's just more fuel to the fire, right? Next year, get back at it, Bucko. And I'm gonna be curious to see how things go. They lost their offensive and defensive coordinators, Jake. So, hey, we'll see how Jalen rocks out this year. But like you mentioned,
he came back from a shoulder injury too, so I don't even think he was 100%.
And we talk about playing through injuries too, right? Patrick Mahomes, he's someone that plays through injuries, right? 2020 national champion, world championship against the Buccaneers. My man has turf toe and he's still slinging the rock, Jake. I think the most impressive pass, we talk about championship performance of Jalen Hurts. I think the most impressive pass that I think I've seen was when Patrick Mahomes threw that ball when he was about parallel to the line of scrimmage and just chunks it up. So it was Nicole Harmon and hits him right in the middle of the head. In the end zone, too. In the end zone. So
he was like falling down. Yeah, I remember that. What else is crazy is that our guy Jalen Hurts has 23 rushing touchdowns the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, he could do it. He can do it all. I mean, it's.
He had 13 last year, career high, at 22 passing touchdowns. What my issue is that just because you don't know how to, how to compare a running quarterback to a pocket passer, just because you don't know how to do it doesn't take away from the running quarterback. Right. And that's my issue with the, basically the dialogue and the rhetoric in regards to Jalen Hurts is, he's just another one of those Lamar Jackson types. What do you mean? Like dominant? Like where he keeps you up at night trying to game plan against, where you can't beat him. Yeah, he's one of those Lamar Jackson types, because when Lamar Jackson's healthy and when he's on, he might be the most dominant player. And I had him at number 6, and I'm curious what you think about that, because I know you had him at 5. Some people would push back and say he hasn't been healthy enough, but I think we already set the precedent. Like, look, these top 10s aren't going to necessarily just be about health. And I think that wouldn't be fair. Like, Tua deserves to be in the top 10 based on his performance we've seen on the field. Okay. And I feel like when you look at Lamar Jackson, the only question with him is health. I don't worry about, can he throw a football in the NFL, because the people that are still questioning that apparently are devaluing the MVP he had in 2019, his second year in the league.
And the money he just got, like, come on, fam. You don't get that money, Jake, if you're decent.
Yeah, no, it's one of those annoying dialogues. I mean, we've talked about it. You know, the black quarterback gets painted in a, you know, this, but like the thing for me is that like, so are we going to ignore the fact that he's already had success? He was a 32nd overall quarterback taken, which the odds are instantly were against him because normally it's like the top 15 quarterbacks are normally the ones that do the best in the first round. But it's like in a draft with Baker Mayfield and Josh Allen. I mean, Sam Darnold, which people, you know, no one wants to talk about, right? Like, but Sam Darnold was a big deal. Yeah. Josh Rosen. Those guys being talked about, and Lamar Jackson was arguably the best quarterback, you know, before the injuries started to take him over. And I think that's the thing is, so the hope is he figures it out. He stays healthy. We saw what Saquon could do at the running back position last year. Started to wonder, okay, this guy has an injury problem. He stays healthy, has a really good year. We'll talk about him in our next episode. I'm sure he'll be on both of our lists, but that's kind of where I'm sitting right now is that if Tua and Lamar can stay healthy, I mean, we're going to have a really fun league with a ton of talent at the quarterback spot.
And I would throw in Matthew Stafford in there, Jake, right? With Matthew Stafford, when he's fully healthy, when he doesn't have any spine or neck issues, what type of quarterback is he, right? What does that look like? So I'm excited to see these guys get back healthy, like you mentioned. And Lamar Jackson, the league does not guarantee someone that much money if they are mediocre. They are not one of the best players to do it. And so I think that money is granted. And you talk about the plight of the black quarterback, Jake. If you just look back at his interviews, his draft interviews, they were just almost disrespectful. They're like, hey, are you going to run routes? What does this look like? And he's answering with like humble foundation, and it's just disrespectful. And he's still getting disrespected to this day. So does he have to win a Super Bowl to get the respect he deserves? Right? What does that look like? You know, Josh Allen's able to do different things and not do as well, and you know they don't give him that much flack. So Lamar Jackson, he represents himself in the agency. You know, his mom represents him. So it's the chips are stacked up against him, Jake, and it's not fair. It's not fair. But yeah, what do you think?
Well, I would say the good thing is it seems like we're trending in the right direction. We just had our first Super Bowl with two black quarterbacks in it, in Mahomes and Hurts. I would also say, you know, three of the first three quarterbacks to come off the board in the NFL draft were black quarterbacks: Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and of course CJ Stroud. And so, you know, at that point, I mean, it's like they're shoving the door open, man. You know, it's like, are you gonna pick against Bryce Young, who's starting at Alabama? Are you gonna pick against Bryce Young? Are you gonna bet against Anthony Richardson? Are you gonna bet against CJ Stroud? I mean, these guys are playing at these big programs, winning big football games, and it's gotten to the point where they've kicked the damn door in. And I think, and I don't like to say they, but you get what I'm saying though, is like, I think that's the best way to stop the movement. I mean, the bad movement anyway. If you want to make change, like you gotta kick the door down. You gotta do it respectfully. You don't see Lamar Jackson saying I'm being profiled or anything. Lamar Jackson goes out there and he proves himself. Jalen Hurts goes out there and he proves himself. You can definitely say whatever you want, and that's the great thing about our country is that you can do that. But I think that's what we've seen, and so it's honestly cool to be able to say, oh yeah, Tua, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts. They're three out of them. Are in the top 10, and maybe down the road we're talking all three of the guys that I just mentioned in the draft could be in the top 10. I don't know.
Yeah,
the future.
You can't read the future, right? Unless you're Canstradamus. No, but I do think, I do think when it comes to, I would want a healthier dialogue. In the media, just in comms in general, right, is supporting the black quarterback, and I think it's uncomfortable. Jake, at the end of the day, you see Lamar Jackson looking like the Houdini. It's uncomfortable, and people aren't used to it. Him representing himself, so people are a little bit uncomfortable. So let's get comfortable. Let's make this the norm.
Well, my late great as in he was great, not like he's not my great grandfather, but my grandpa Dave, he always used to say, be comfortable being uncomfortable. And I think that's kind of like make your surroundings your habitat. And I think that's the thing is that these quarterbacks, and to Dak's credit too, like Dak has done it. I don't want to take too much away from him. I know he hasn't looked the same since the ankle break, but I think these guys have come into the league and they've pushed back narratives, Oh, well, yeah, I'm really fast, but man, I can throw the ball. I can throw the ball better than the quarterback that you have currently on the roster, and you're telling me to work out at receiver. I'll beat that guy out, and that's I think where that's coming from. But also can't forget about guys that have paved the way and been trailblazers. I mean, like a Doug Williams becoming the first black quarterback to win a Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Guys like Randall Cunningham, guys like Michael Vick. I mean, those guys, Don McNabb, Steve McNair, Warren Moon is the obvious one. Without those guys, and this is how like the mobile quarterback became so common. Is the league's changing to this. Yeah, but how does the league change to that? Because it changes to that. The reason you have guys like Josh Allen that are running is because Josh Allen grew up and watched Michael Vick, and he watched these other guys. It inspired him. So it's not just only black quarterbacks can run, because now I think what we're seeing is that it's an evolved league. We're seeing more guys run. Not to say that hasn't been
Daniel
past,
Jones, Ryan Tannehill. Those guys got wheels, and you got to be able to move, Jake. You got to be able to move and evade the pocket, or you're gonna get crushed, right? Think about
4-2. I'm telling you, the 4-2 edge defenders are coming to a theater near you. Right now, what was it? 4-3 for Nolan Smith. There you go.
4-3. That's crazy.
We're getting closer.
And the Eagles they're coming out of the Eagles locker room there, Jake. So it's looking a little spooky over there. And one thing I will say, I think it's a cool moment to be where we are now. We're seeing the shift. We're seeing, just seeing players like Anthony Richardson, right, step into the draft. And you talk about people that blaze the path. Cam Newton, right? Cam Newton's a quarterback who blazed the path and opened things up a bit. And
Russell
said, hey,
Wilson, to not just the black quarterback, not just the running quarterback, but like a short Kings over here.
Yeah, exactly. The short quarterback. I mean, I think that's something that we cannot overlook. We're seeing different models, and even go to the defensive line room, Jake. Right, we're seeing different Aaron Donald, different defensive linemen that are showing up and that are presenting different profiles to the game of football. So I think it's really cool to see. And Jake, I wanted to tap into the honorable mentions a little bit more. Right, we talk about our Geno Smiths, we talk about your Dak Prescotts. We talk about your Kirk Cousins. It was funny because I was with some Michigan State folks the other day when my buddies with the Michigan State. I said, tell me something about Kirk. Like, I don't know too much. Give me a little something. And they were like, that's Kirk Cousins is a Clark Kent. He's more of a Clark Kent. They said whenever he walks into a room, he knows everyone's name. My buddy Andre Sims played at Michigan State. He said when he went to Michigan State, he said Kirk Cousins knew everyone's name that walked in that building. And it's just cool, Jake, to hear those type of stories and understand what makes these players go, right? Kirk Cousins, you might overlook him like, purple jerseys, doesn't do well in the playoffs, just kind of wipe them by. But no, these guys are true professionals, and they're able to last long, Jake. You think we talk about it being able to last long, you think about your Baker Mayfields, right? You think about your first pick quarterbacks that have to resurge themselves when it comes to football, your Jameis Winstons, but your guys like your Kirk Cousins, your guys that your Russell Wilsons, even, Geno Smith, these guys are pounding the pavement and finding success in their careers. And I think is really cool.
No, I agree. And I always find it interesting. There's like a little bit of a reset. And I'm thinking that's what we could be getting from Derek Carr. But I want to turn your attention a little bit over to Daniel Jones. He got a lot of flack for getting paid. I mean, the guy's just trying to make a buck, right? It's I'm not going to throw too much shade at him for that. Throws over 3,000 yards. Doesn't have a number one receiver on that roster. I don't care what anyone says. I mean, obviously you can say what you will about Saquon, but at the end of the day, he's not playing with a Calvin Johnson. He's not playing with a legendary receiver or anything like that. Like, he's got what he's got, right? And I'm not saying those guys are bad, but it doesn't make his job easier. He's not getting bailed out, so to speak. So this past year, he ends up throwing, he had a 67% completion percentage this year, my guy. And, I'll say this is also the highest average per pass that he's had. 15 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He took care of the ball better. He had a 92.5. I mean, this was a career year for him, his best year by far. And then he goes and he adds 700 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns to go with it. Daniel Jones isn't a franchise quarterback in the way that Joe Burrow's a franchise quarterback or Patrick Mahomes. But I gotta say, I'm not the biggest Daniel Jones fan. I'm not saying he's a superstar, but I'd say, you know what, maybe he needs to be talked about a little bit more. Maybe there needs to be more dialogue because he's doing what they need him to do. And, you know, at the end of the day, the guy isn't really, you know, like, he won a playoff game. He didn't look that bad. I mean, are you going to win the Super Bowl with him? I mean, you need a good supporting cast. Maybe you could. I don't know. But right now, I think all you want to know is if before I pay a guy, is he getting better? And I think when you look at Daniel Jones, he certainly is. And there are other guys as well that can attest to this. So, you know, I think, you know, when you look at this list that we've gone through, right now, I think people are a little worried about Justin Herbert, like what's going on there. But I think going back to what you were saying, the ribs, I think the ribs had a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But you see a guy like Daniel Jones improving each year. That's a damn good sign. All of his numbers went up each year. And so that's something, you know, when you're looking, okay, is this guy actually panning out? I want to see production. And I mean, you could nitpick and say, okay, well, he had more yards his rookie year than, you know, the other 2 years afterwards. But I don't care about that. In the grand scheme of things, did Daniel Jones get better from 2009 to 2023? And the answer is resounding yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. Pay the man. Bring the Brinks truck. Pay the man. Get it done. One other person, Jake, I want to also call out Brock Purdy. I know he's the talk of the town right at the end of the year last year. I think the NFL actually are going to change the rule and carry 3 quarterbacks and allow a quarterback to be active on the roster because they clearly didn't have any quarterbacks to play with when they played the Eagles. But Mr. Irrelevant, I know we talk about him a lot, Jake, but we're talking about our top 10 quarterbacks and we're talking about our sleepers and our honorable mentions. We cannot forget about Brock Purdy. If anyone needs an honorable mention from last year, it is Brock Purdy. Just the way he finished. I know he had his UCL get hurt right by Hassan Reddick. He touched that elbow and he went out. But Brock Purdy, I think, was the biggest story of the NFL. Right after Christian McCaffrey got there, then you see Brock Purdy emerging as well. Just as here, you know, the GM like John Lynch really standing on the table for guys like Brock was insane. So we talk about someone who needs to come back and get healthy, right? A lot of these guys need to get healthy. But Brock Purdy definitely had the most impressive finish to his year last year outside of getting hurt. So he is definitely going to be on the honorable mentions list. He's number 1 on that list, I think, at this point. So we'll see who the quarterback's going to be at the 49ers. But
yeah, hearing things about Trey Lance, you know, he has taken strides, so we'll see what ends up happening there. Sam Darnold in a Kyle Shanahan offense, if he's named the starter, could have a significant. I don't know if anybody is going to work their way in the top 10 out of that crop, but I think, you know, going into you know, maybe mid-season this year, we could see like a crazy one like Anthony Richardson, where I feel like you know, the reports and, you know, people will call like it is. It's overreaction season, all that. But let me just say this right now. Okay. We're hearing the reports. Anthony Richardson isn't as raw as people think. Now, I actually put that in my my YouTube short I did on him. I said he's not as raw as people think. If Anthony Richardson comes out and he looks like Mahomes in year 2, I won't be shocked because I think being with Steichen, being with guys like Pittman and, you know, Alec Pierce, and I just think having Jonathan Taylor, who's also chomping at the bit to have a better year than last year, I think he could be that guy. I really believe that. I wouldn't be surprised at all.
He looked like a man amongst boys at the rookie like Fanatics jersey reveal. Like he was standing amongst all the other players and he looked like a straight monster, Jake. Like he looked like a defensive end that's playing quarterback. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Jake, the biggest question mark on the year, I think, though, is Deshaun Watson. What is he going to do? What does that look like? He got the bag. He's been through a lot. Is he going to step up? Is he not? I'm very curious. I don't know if you have any thoughts on Deshaun Watson, Jake, but, you know, when it came to last year, I know he played 6 games. Didn't do too great, right? Had 7 touchdown passes, 1 rushing touchdown, over 1,000 yards, 58 passer percentage. So it didn't go well last year. It didn't go well for Russell Wilson. It didn't go well for a lot of quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford got hurt. It didn't go well for a lot of people, but it really didn't go well for him. So I'm curious to see how he'll do this year. I think that's probably one of the bigger question marks is he got paid a lot of money, but is he still acting funny? I don't know. What are your thoughts on Deshaun?
Man, I don't even know what to think about him. I think the way he looked last year was scary. Like, does he get that back? Is this a mental thing? And so, I mean, not talking about whether I'm a fan of his character or not, but just the player himself. I know he's capable of it. We've seen it before. He's got Amari Cooper and other guys. The emergence, the final breaking out of what it looks like in David Njoku. So, and one of the best running backs in the league, and Nick Chubb. Yeah. I don't know. With him and with Kyler Murray, who, you know, is going to miss half the season, which is why we didn't really talk about him. But yeah, I'm not really sure. I'm more wait and see with him. I kind of think he's in the 20s right now. He's like kind of, you know, show me, don't tell me type deal. It's been 2 years since we've seen what he can really do. And so that is what I'll say about that. As we wrap this thing up, just want to give a special shout out and happy birthday to Rams legendary quarterback. In my opinion, I love this guy, Dre Bleav. Okay. Yeah. Won a Super Bowl with the Rams, 2-time Pro Bowler. He turns 46 today. So big shout out to Dre Bleav. He started, you know, he had 4 years with the Rams. He had 4 years with the Lions. He had 2 with Denver. He played in San Francisco for a year. So big shout out to him. He was a fun cornerback to watch. I remember I was a little kid, and, you know, the thing, anytime I hear Dre Bleav, I remember him just ripping the ball out of Garrison Hurst's hands and running it back for 6 on Monday Night Football to end the season. So it was, I think, 2002. So yeah, happy birthday to Dre Bleav.
Happy birthday to Dre Bleav. My partner, his birthday is tomorrow, so we're gonna talk about our running back group, and then we got to shout out to my lady as well. But happy birthday to Bleav. May birthday.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. So that's gonna do it. If you appreciated this, you like us, be sure to follow us at Off the Edge Show. You can follow me at J.K. Bogan. You can follow Cam at Cameron Lynch 50, and we'll be back tomorrow. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and we will see you guys soon. Take it easy, folks, and later.